And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And today we're going to talk about Season 4, Episode 15 of Attack on Titan. Double episode this week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had the 1 week hiatus because of the earthquake in Japan while Season 4, Episode 14 was airing. So they dropped 2 on us this week. And as a result, we are dropping 2 podcasts on you this week. So you're welcome.
Enjoy.
If it's your first time here, we're anime only watchers. We haven't read the manga. All of our theories are genuine. The show, you know how this really works is we briefly summarize the episodes, we go over it beat by beat, our favorite moments, a little bit of theories here and there, some nitpicks perhaps, but mostly just, breaking it down. Before we jump into that, every week we like to feature, a piece of fan art that we catch on, all the subreddits out there and all the Attack on Titan stuff and social media. But this week, we're going with something that Mappa, the studio that makes the show, put out. They put out 2 or 3 key images for this episode and last episode. So the one you're looking at is one that the director of this episode put out, and it's of young Zeke. And it was so cool. I was like, we kind of have to use this one. Just because it's a killer thumbnail.
It's so fitting.
It's so fitting.
Yeah.
This is such a cool episode. So yeah, without further ado, let's just jump into it. Season 4, Episode 15. I'll start us off. So, Zeke recalls his childhood and how he was forcefully indoctrinated by his parents. He becomes friends with Tom Ksaver, a researcher and current holder of the Beast Titan.
Mr. Ksaver becomes a mentor to Zeke over the years, and they are unified by their shared vision of an eventual euthanization of all Eldians to bring an end to Eldia's suffering. We learn this same vision is what unites Zeke and Eren in the present. Zeke triggers the Thunder Spear, detonating it and catching Levi by surprise.
So yeah, interesting episode.
Very interesting episode. Did not see this coming.
No, me neither. It made sense. Zeke has always been such an interesting character. It's been really interesting to know what's been driving him. And, we're coming off such a great episode last week, or, season of episode 14, where it looks like Zeke is in some perilous conditions. So now, now is a really good time to figure out where he comes from. Mm-hmm. We knew a bit of this, right? We heard kind of Grisha's side of raising Zeke.
Yeah.
At the end of season 3, part 2, when they had the basement reveal.
And his regrets.
Yeah, Grisha really owned up, and we're about to learn, no shit. But
this was hard to watch.
He did really own up to, he kind of fucked up raising Zeke, right? Grisha had felt like he was radicalized by his own parents, and in turn, he radicalized his own child to try and, overcorrect, and he maybe fucked up Zeke just as much as he himself was fucked up. Mm-hmm. And he was right about that, because this whole show, or this whole episode at least, is, pretty more or less dedicated to Zeke and his kind of coming of age as an Eldian and Marley. And, parts of this are familiar, with what we've seen with Reiner.
Yeah.
And Falco in present day. And, Zeke didn't have it easy.
No.
It looks like they all had it rough.
They did, yeah. The nice thing about this, I say that, this is a very dark episode.
Yeah.
Very dark. But, it's only been 10 episodes ago, and doesn't it feel like we're going back down memory lane again? I feel nostalgic for these moments in Marley already.
Yeah.
We're still within the same season. When this whole thing is done, probably my favorite moments have been all in watching the kids, seeing the kids kind of grow up a little bit and their moments up to the moment when Eren kind of trashes the party. The days or weeks leading up to that, it was really good stuff.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. It's really interesting because we have so much context for how everything happened on Paradis Island, and we know where these people come from. It feels like it's been a really, really educational and contextual bonus to see where Reiner came from, to see where Annie came from, and now Zeke, and knowing his circumstances. And Zeke has always been a little bit different, because we knew that there was an obviously very direct connection with him and Eren and Grisha. Mm-hmm. Really cool to get his side of the story. So, first scene of the episode is, They leave the walls. They get kind of a pass, and a janitor splashes water all over Grisha and his family.
I
Basically
love the
saying,
way
go
I
ahead.
love the way you worded this in our kind of just like our show, like just like notes in prep for the episode,
Yeah.
fresh Eldian hate scene.
So yeah,
I love that.
in case y'all forgot, these people are trash.
Yeah, one more time, a little sneaky hammer over that.
Yeah, man. Fucking janitor's like, yeah, they told me to take out the trash.
Yeah, it was
Um,
so
yeah.
heavy-handed.
So yeah, he throws his mop bucket all over them, and like, again, I don't think if you're listening to this or you saw this episode out of context, right? So obviously, this just further drives home the point, and they've done this the whole series or the whole season, I should say, of Eldians are really lower than low. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
guy's job is sweeping the floor and all that, but he's a Marley. He has like a blood, just by virtue of where and how he was born and who he was, his culture. He has significant social status over them, and he's allowed to treat them like shit, and
Yeah.
he does. He also says something really important that I think is a through line of the episode,
Yeah.
where he says, you people, and we've heard Gabby say this a lot, right? You people, we've heard a lot of people say this. You people terrorized the rest of the world for thousands of years, and now you have to atone for your sins. But yet here you are pumping out kids, and he's saying that to Grisha, right? Because Grisha is with his then wife Dina Fritz and his child Zeke. And he makes a point of that, and this ends up becoming a point throughout the rest of the episode of this whole, like, why are you breeding? You know what I mean? This weird, shitty attitude. And it also hits the episode off on the right foot, Grant, because Grisha, is right in Zeke's ear. It's like,
Yeah.
see how bad it is?
Yeah.
See how shitty it is out here? You're going to save everybody. If you want to change, if you want this to be better, you got to change it.
The pressure has begun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
God, so much of this, in retrospect, especially when you think about Reiner and Gabby and Falco, is just people weaponizing their kids.
Yeah.
We've talked about like this circle of hate and radicalization, and it all depends on where you're born. And Attack on Titan has done a very good job of illustrating all those themes. And this, I feel like they really hammered home in this episode. Yeah, the weaponization of youth.
Yeah.
And my God, is it a bummer.
And it's to go back to last episode for a moment. This is what Flock is doing now. This is kind of like the goal of they're hitting like the new recruits, because it's funny because there's in the moment one of the recruits like in line is, I think they're saying, my dad says we should do this, and like they're constantly, it's like you said, they're reminding us of like, the youth are the one that are fighting these wars. And that's like any war, really, for the most part. It's always the young, the young that have to go to war, and this is, like, it's weapon is, you put it perfectly, Dave. The weaponization of youth is probably, there's been so many themes, and it's kind of just opening up into like a bigger umbrella. But like this is just one of the things sitting up top. Like it's, the sins of the father, but like it's just, it seems like there's one country that just, keeps continuing to repeating the cycle at any cost. And Marley, just a bunch of fuckers.
Yeah, man. Then we get this montage. Well, not a montage. It's a scene of Zeke struggling in his warrior training. Because at this point, he's old enough. He's young, but he's old enough that he's in the warrior candidate program, right? So very much to like what Falco and Gabby were like until very recently.
He looks younger than Falco.
Yeah, he's young. He's in the program, but he's struggling, right? He's way behind. Also, very much like Reiner and Falco, if you remember, the flashbacks from when they were kids. Really at the back of the line. We see Mr. Xaver there. This is the guy at the end of last episode. He's wearing the same glasses as Zeke.
And
He's just kind of... Yeah, he's there with your boy McGath. Young McGath. And yeah, he's just not doing well. But no. Mr. Xaver has his eyes on Zeke. And then, then Zeke is like studying the Siege of Lagos thing.
Mm.
Who is that? It's not his dad yet. Is that his grandfather teaching him?
No, because
Who is that?
I
School?
think no, because I think he finished his day, and I think he tries to say, or Grisha asks, "How was your day?" And he goes, "Oh, it was tough." And I think Grisha kind of hits home. He goes, "Oh, don't worry, like you're gonna be a warrior one day." Kind of like just like pushing it.
Yeah.
And then they drop Zeke off at his grandparents.
Yes.
And then they say a line at the door of like, "Oh, we're going to our..."
It's like a dance group or some shit.
Yeah, social dance hall. Which when you think about like in the time period this is set, that kind of fits into the world a little bit.
Yeah, no,
because that was like a big thing. There's like dance halls and everyone met up, and
it kind of made sense. Like,
yeah,
they clearly had a cover. The audience knows that they're going to do some Eldian restorationist type shit, but they were clearly hiding it from their own parents, so that says something.
Yeah, and then but they kind of make it sound like the parents know. Because I think the dad says like you're gonna get yourself in trouble, like you're gonna get caught, and but yeah, no. So
good point. That wasn't clear to me. I wasn't sure if the parents knew. Sorry, go ahead.
So like the scene of Lagos, like the tutoring is just his grandparents kind of, because they say like, oh, is your dad teaching you our history? Like this is important, and it kind of hits it home. And
now Yeah, so that happens, and then I'm just going to skim across because I have a thought here, something I want to get to. The next couple scenes is like Zeke finishes training early one day.
Yeah.
And this is like, it's shortly thereafter, this scene. And he sees a boy playing catch with his dad.
Mm.
And he goes to ask his dad, Grisha, to do the same. And Grisha's like, "Oh, great, you're done. We can study more."
Yeah.
Do I have the order here right, Grant?
I think he had met Tom, and he had thrown a ball with Tom that one time when they introduced themselves. And then there's a day where he finishes up early.
Okay.
And he sees the father and son playing baseball, and that's when he runs home. I think there's some spacing between the version 1 of the Siege of Lagos and then version 2 of the Siege of Lagos. Yeah.
That's so there's two things there you just mentioned, right? One is the baseball, which we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
That they showed some random close-ups on the baseball at the beginning of season 4. Zeke has always had this affinity for baseball, and now they really hit it home in this episode. He throws heat, as Scaver says.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about the revisionist history. So that is, the Siege of Lagos, where his grandparents tell him, it's basically like how the Eldians are the worst people ever, and
it was taken in a night.
Yeah. And then Grisha gives him like a slightly different version in which it wasn't really didn't really work out that way, and how the Eldians were really the good guys.
Yeah.
You ready for the trivia bomb?
Yeah.
You ready, bro? This is.
But okay, before you hit me with the trivia, I have a question.
Fuck. Go ahead.
There's, I don't know, because it would be in the scene with Grisha and Zeke. So I guess like version 2 of the Siege of Lagos telling.
Yeah.
The revision, or the apparently original telling of it.
Yeah.
He makes a point of like Zeke is fully invested in the cause. Like on Grisha's side, he goes, but like Ymir wouldn't do that. Like Ymir wouldn't just do that to her people.
Yeah.
So you can tell at this point that he's
torn.
He's
a kid.
Do you think he's torn yet, or do you think he fully believes what his father is saying?
I think. Good point. I think he believes what his father is saying because he has no other frame of reference to not.
Yeah.
But I think he also just lives in a really high stress environment.
Yeah.
But no, I think that up until this point, I think he was bought in with his dad.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
sorry. That was just my question. So sorry, as you were.
The trivia bomb. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's unfortunately not as great as past trivia bombs, but I think it's pretty dope.
Okay.
Season 2 credits. Season 2 finale. And this is what's fucked about this show. Because it has, as far as I can tell, nothing to do with what happens. But you remember season 2 finale, Aaron uses the coordinate ability for the first time. Remember that episode?
Yeah.
The credit sequence for the finale of season 2 is the animated version of the Siege of Lagos. Sup.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember that at all.
No, fucking neither did I.
So what? Was it played out like a storybook animation?
It's a storybook animation, yeah. It's lifted right from the book that they're looking at. In this episode of it shows the Titans coming out of the water, and all that. Believe me, it's a 1-to-1 replacement. It's it's a little bit different. Like it plays out over about a minute, and it's like a like a storybook version. It's not like actual animation and whatever you would call that. But it's a credit sequence at the end of season 2.
Here's a what if for it. Probably an unanswerable question.
Hit me up.
Do you think that is just pulled from the book, or do you think that's exactly how it happened?
I think this is like almost too objective. My guess is like, as with most things, the truth probably lies in the middle. Like, sure. I don't think it's like Grisha's bullshit version of like, they were really, you know what I mean? Like, they were really liberating people, or like they were like the forces of good. And I don't think it's Marley's version either. It was probably complicated. But I think the beats are probably the same, right? Like I bet the Titans did come out of the water. But that's what they show at the end of season 2. Super weird.
That's cool.
Isn't that weird? But we've seen some shit like this. Like their scenes in remember, like way back, like in season 1 in the pilot, where Aaron has a fever dream, and they used frames for that in season 4. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you had made mention of the room with Willie and the toys on the bed. Yeah.
Oh, and while we're on that note, at the end of season 3, part 2, the basement reveal, there's that episode called That Day, which is like it's basically the reveal episode, right? Of Grisha's childhood. Grisha is running out the gates with his sister, and he bumps into Mr. Ksaver. He almost knocks him over.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And like it's unmistakable because of the glasses, right? Like the glasses are such a specific thing. The foresight involved.
Was he wearing his armband?
He had a regular armband on, so he wasn't yet a candidate.
Okay.
But he looked like a teenage version of himself. But he had an armband on. But it was I'll send you the frame. It was 100% him.
Really? That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Crazy planning, crazy attention to detail. Like I think you said it a while, and I was telling my friend Alex about this recently, that I never really considered Attack on Titan a blink and you miss it type show.
Yeah.
Because like to be fair, like it's not like if you don't notice these things, you don't enjoy the show. The show's awesome. Mm-hmm. But I think upon rewatch, it's going to be even greater for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we had talked about this, but when this, I think this episode has painted a pretty clear picture that they have to be doing a part 2. Yeah. That I think they just the corner they're in, like there's no way. There's so many story beats that are just left open that they can't do in a 20-minute episode. I genuinely believe it's impossible. But I'm immediately jumping right back into season 1 after this.
Oh really?
For sure. That's tight. The show has just kind of like enveloped us, for the past few weeks, and we're so invested with it, between talking and watching and and doing this each week. It's just I need to get a bigger picture. Just the things that have happened over the past couple weeks. I need to see some personal reactions, and like I need to watch people's faces a little more, knowing what I know now. I think because I think you're almost done your rewatch now, so we're
very slow. We're like like not even mid part 1 of season 3.
Yeah.
The amount of reality television I have to watch in exchange for Attack on Titan episodes is remarkably disproportionate.
What's the exchange rate on that?
I don't know. It's like to be fair, we've got through quite a bit on the front end. Like
you hammered through season 2.
Hammered through seasons 1 and 2, but we've really slowed our pace. So right now, I think I'm paying dividends in the form of Love Island Australia.
Oh, there you go.
And let me tell you, Grant, that's some good stuff. No, it's a different kind of drama. We'll just put it
Are
that
we
way.
announcing? Are we doing it here? Or are we announcing the Love Island pod?
Yeah, so really excited to announce after Attack on Titan, we're jumping right into Love Island.
Yeah, fuck My Hero Academia.
Yeah,
It's Love Island Australia.
Yeah, exactly. um, so anyway, there's tons of shit to be found littered throughout the show. I just thought of another one back in season 2, but I mean I think you'll remember this one too, Grant, is when Reiner realizes that Ymir can read like a can, or something. Do you remember that moment?
No.
They're trapped in a tower in season 2.
Yes. Okay.
And I believe it's a language or something that Ymir reads. And it's clearly an object from Marley. And Reiner goes, wait a minute, you can read this? And they intentionally don't pay it off until episodes later. But the idea is that Reiner, after they successfully abduct Eren in season 2,
Yeah.
only then do they revisit that conversation and be like, yeah, I knew, the audience, if you're a first time viewer, you have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Yeah. There's this great scene with that covers basically all of that once Eren is abducted and Ymir is also abducted by Ryan and Berthold, and they kind of have this conversation, and it's very clear that Eren and also the audience is the odd man out. The three of them are talking about shit, and Aaron's like, what the fuck is going on?
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, and, who's the enemy, and this and that. And you could tell that Ymir knows, and they know that she knows, and she knows that they know, but Eren doesn't know. You know what I mean? And we're Eren. But anyway, it all stems from this weird, like, tuna can scene.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm completely drawing a blank on that.
I'll see if I can track it down and send you. But anyway, all that to say, on the rewatch, it's going to be great. Very excited.
Oh, I'm very excited. Yeah. Anyways, back to
episode 15. So Grisha is, pressuring the fuck out of Zeke. Zeke tries to come home early one day and play catch. No bueno. He gets some revisionist history on the siege of Lagos. And then Zeke has a funner game of catch with Mr. Xaver. And it seems like a bit of a reprieve. I think this is where Mr. Xaver says, like, hey, you've got an arm.
Yeah.
You're throwing heat. He's throwing, like, fun baseball terminology at Zeke.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of it feels like a callback to all the baseball terminology Zeke was using when he was obliterating the Scouts.
Yeah.
In season 3, which is a weird parallel to draw.
You can tell it's stuck with him. This was like, it shows the impact Mr. Xaver had on him.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when you think about it. Then Zeke goes home, and he hears his dad, Grisha, complaining about his scores.
Well, there's someone in the room. There's someone from the Restorationists.
Yeah, they're talking about info from the owl, right?
Yeah, who's like putting Grisha on blast. Like, what the fuck are you and your kid doing?
Give your kid a smack.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, we also get some insider info because like they make a reference that it's not just the owl, that they can't sway their decision. It's not just the owl can't sway the decision, because they're saying like, well, it's pretty, like they spell it out saying that like, he needs to have better scores for them to try and sway the score, but they don't just say the owl is trying to sway the score. It's they. So now I'm wondering who else in the government, in the Marleyan government, is still potentially kicking around.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, because you have to imagine that the owl, Mr. Kruger, was not the be-all, end-all of the Aldean Restorationist resistance, right? Like,
it's implied that he started it, though.
Yeah. But, like, if you're gonna subjugate a race of people to seemingly endless torment, I have to imagine that they weren't the only group of people that, started a resistance, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, maybe it was bigger than the owl. Presumably there's still people like that around. That makes sense to me. There's like a scene here where quick scene with Xaver and Zeke, I think, where they talk a bit about just gonna call him Tom. I think his first name is Tom.
Tom. Yeah, Tom.
Where he talks about his research, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Where he's basically saying like, yeah, I'm a Titan researcher. I also hold the Beast Titan. Not really great at war, but
which was interesting.
Yeah.
To hear him say that, because the Beast has been a big deal as far as we've always known it, right?
Yeah, though he does, with last episodes in mind, like, it maybe in pure combat he may not be great other than hurling projectiles and decimating armies.
At a distance, yeah.
At a distance, but like, if you remember the pilot of this season, like he kind of needed, Reiner's backup. In like 1-to-1 combat, he didn't seem great, but yeah, like maybe just long distance, but also clearly like Zeke's ability to, the whole Titan serum or his spinal fluid thing and his ability to turn people into Titans because of his royal blood. It seems like he was a much more proficient Beast Titan than Tom Xaver. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is there a throwaway line at one point that Zeke was the most powerful Beast Titan?
They say early in the season, Colt.
Yeah.
Colt says like you're like one of the most profound ones in history. Like people don't know how you can do what you can do, and obviously we know.
Yeah,
it all comes out of the blood.
But is this also the moment? There's one bad thing with this episode is it bleeds a little too well together.
Yeah.
Is this where Kassaver makes a line to Zeke about why would you want to be a Titan?
Yep.
And just the look that Zeke like stops and like looks around.
You're like, hey man, you know what you're saying?
Yeah, like
we're gonna get caught.
Nuts.
Don't say that shit. It reminds me of now that you say it. It reminds me of Aaron saying that to Falco. It's like, hey, you're a good person. Why would you want to shorten your life?
Yeah.
And that's a big no-no. Obviously, even just thinking that way is a big no-no. But I think it's also very interesting that, last episode Aaron talked about how Zeke knew a lot about Titans, more than Marley. And you have to assume that, Xaver being a Titan researcher, he talks more about Titan lore in depth. We don't necessarily gain major bombs, but he talks about the idea of, inheriting memories, and I want to know what happened that day with Ymir. All we know is Eldia and, we touched something, and everything changed after that. And he talks a bit about that, and it's super, super interesting. And you have to imagine that a lot of Zeke's info and intel is coming from those experiences with Xaver, and then obviously from inheriting the Titan from him. Mm-hmm. He does end up dropping a bomb later, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Zeke goes home one more time, and now Grisha is fucking losing it.
This dude has got some fucking pipes on him. I thought Nicolo could scream. This guy, that was scary, man. Like,
voice actor.
Zeke covering his ears in the other room. Like, the only light you can see is through the bottom of the door.
A little too real, eh?
That's... I can't say I've ever been in a scenario like that.
But I do it to my kids all the time. I'm kidding. I don't have any kids. Everybody relax.
But, like, that was, Zeke, I know what they're doing. This is... And you know what? When they did it with Gabby, I bought it. And I buy it here, too. Admittedly. But you are not gonna fucking make me in the penultimate episode have a total change of heart on this fucking guy.
No,
it's not gonna happen. And
we're not gonna become Zeke sympathizers, right?
No, but they really, 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 really hit it home about how shitty his deal was.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah, dude. It makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
Right? His motivations. Seeing what he can... Grisha told us an abridged version, right?
Yeah.
I was a bad parent. I pressured my son too much.
Yeah.
He didn't tell it like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And shit looked like fucking hell, right?
And, I think there was a moment a couple weeks ago we had... It might have been when, like, Willie was introduced. You and I were kind of, just shooting ideas around. And one of the things we had talked about was... We still don't know anything about Zeke, know, and we've only been able to we've only been able to have opinions of him of like little tidbits we've been parsing together. And pretty much what we've landed on is like him just being an opportunist. It's about his plan. this episode and these scenes, like obviously there's more to come, but like we've already seen, in prior when Zeke, you know, sent like, calls his parents out and like reports them in kind of thing. But like this episode has done a good job to show that he has had a goal. He's not just some power hungry, I think he has a vision. I think it's a flawed vision. But this episode has done a good job they did the same thing with fucking Gabby. Like Gabby's nowhere near is the I didn't think Gabby's evil. I think she's a confused kid, but she could be Zeke. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do.
Like this episode is tremendous. Like the bonds and like, and you know what? Maybe I take that back. Zeke isn't maybe not an opportunist, but the way he melds from like grouping to grouping, like he's at home. He was at home like learning the stuff about like, the true Eldian history, and then he kind of fit right in with the revisionist history stuff. And then when Tom started hitting him with stuff, he kind of melded right into that. Like he was just always looking for a home.
Yeah, he was a kid, I think he was desperate. Yeah. He was desperate for mentorship and for affection, and he definitely didn't get that at home. And then this Tom guy takes this genuine or seemingly genuine interest in him.
Yeah.
And he has to compartmentalize that as a kid, right? Like, oh, my parents are restorationists, that's bad. I can't let that be known on the outside. But on the outside, I have to let my Eldian guilt, like, consume me, and everyone has but my parents say that that's not really how I should feel. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's just a lot for a kid to process, and it makes sense that he ends up kind of fucked up.
I'm a grown-ass man watching the show trying to fucking put this shit together. I could not imagine what he as a character would be going through. It's insane.
Yeah.
The whole Marley shtick is such a raw deal. Like, it's... Yeah, and I have a point and we'll get to that later, but in this world, is there a greater hell to be placed in than growing up in Marley as an Eldian?
Within the world of Attack on Titan, probably not, man. I mean, they, I think that's a big time critique on maybe just modern society and how, and then just framing things within context and how fucked up that all is. Yeah, it's a raw deal. It really, really, really sucks, and I think it's this is a big part of it. Mm-hmm. So moving forward after this, Zeke is walking home one day and he hears Marley Brass talking about how they've got a lead on a group of Eldian restorationists.
Oh, that he was mopping, and that was a sad scene too. Him kind of just like, because Tom had kind of got the idea of like, you should live. Why would you want to like kill yourself that way? And he was like, this will be good. Like, I will live a life, and I'll do my best, and da da da, and like,
I'm gonna make the best of it.
And it was just,
and he had a new friend, right?
It was fucking.
That was his window to be like try and just be a person.
Yeah, and immediately taken from him.
Yeah, he clearly didn't have a choice here. And he does, like, he takes a swing, right? Like he warns his parents.
Yeah.
And Grisha reacted so badly, and so did his mom. Like their instinct here was not self-preservation or understanding. It was, again, like radicalization. Like, haven't you been listening? You know what I mean? And to be fair, we've seen Grisha's point of view. We remember that he became aware that his sister was eaten alive by dogs or ripped to shreds by dogs, and he brings that up. He says, we have to change this so that never happens again.
And that's the thing too, like in that scene, Grisha has like very legitimate, like you said, he has very legitimate points, but he is not, you can tell like he's young and he's angry and he's not maybe thought as well out as he should have. Like he had an ace in the hole. Yeah. It just goes to show the potential that Zeke had, and maybe not, maybe Zeke jumped ahead of the line because he did rat his parents out, but if he had maybe a little more focused and like truly was like working, in simpatico with Zeke on their goal and their mission, I feel like Zeke would have been a part of the cause. He would have become a restorationist.
Certainly possible.
But he was like a fucking prick. Like
he never had a chance. Yeah.
No, he never had a chance, and like he went about the wrong way. And I think that's probably like Grisha seems like a piece of work, and like he has his regrets, but I think he has his regrets about how he handled the situation, not about how he treated his son.
Yeah, when you look back at that reveal episode of Grisha sort of telling his side of what happened, you know, he seems like he had matured. You know, by the end of his life, when he handed his Titan down to Eren, it feels like he had really framed a lot of that and had really learned from all of that. But yeah, you know, this period of his life that we're seeing now, there are clearly like some of his worst moments. Yeah, not a great look, man.
No.
So then, you know, it's only natural what happens next, right? And again, like what we're saying, we're not trying to be like, oh, you know, if you really frame it all, Zeke's actions make sense. Like, you know, one of the things I saw people saying is like, you know, just, you know, your traumatic childhood does not, you know, admit you for your troubled adulthood, right? Or it doesn't liberate you from all these choices. And that's like a weird conversation to have in general. But before we get into that, let's just stick with the childhood. Zeke does what makes sense. He goes to his only friend, right?
Yeah.
He goes to Xaver and he tells him, like, what the... You know, he just tells him. And you see, Xaver doesn't seem to me... He's not a Marleyan... you know, he's not a... Like an Eldian candidate through and through. He clearly has his own reservations.
He's a researcher first.
He's a researcher first.
Yeah.
He's not... you know, his curiosity is still there. He clearly cares about Zeke. He might be the only person who actually does.
He reminds me of Armin a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like, Armin's not about the violence. He's about, like, you know,
the quest for information.
Yeah, like, and, you know, and I guess Hans would be similar. And, you know, like, he's... You know, and he makes reference, like, I'm not about the war games. That's jumping ahead to when they're older, but...
Yeah.
You know, he's been very upfront. And that's a really other interesting part of that scene, too, is he clearly loves Zeke. And
yeah, he's distraught, right?
He's distraught. He does not want to lose Zeke. And that's like not like a crooked thing of Xaver to do, but he manipulated Zeke into a situation where he would not lose Zeke.
Yep.
But, you know,
Zeke like gets to survive,
yes.
Right? Like he also, you know, part of the point here, it may be manipulation, but he also says the only way you survive is if you turn them in. Yep. Because if you don't and you're caught with them, there's potential that you go too. Yep. And that, you know, what do we know about the Marleyans? Like, do they seem to be super reasonable, you know, when it comes, you know what I mean? When it comes to like quashing these types of rebellions, it's total. I wouldn't put it past them for a second to completely execute a child or, you know, send it, you know, turn it into a Titan or whatever. So there's credence to that. It was clear that Xaver was acting in Zeke's best interest and also maybe in his own because he cared about the kid. So we already know what happens because Grisha's told us, and now we see it from Zeke's perspective. He turns his parents in. Yep. And this is cool too. You can see Xaver in this episode kind of leaning over Zeke, comforting him as it happens. You know, there's like, as the Marleyan's forces surround his parents, he's there in season 3 as well. He looks a little bit different, but he's kind of this guy comforting young Zeke.
What I thought was interesting, and I might be misremembering, but I feel like when we originally saw that scene in the previous season, the focus was on Zeke's face.
Yep.
At a couple points, you did not see Zeke's face. You only saw it from his parents.
Yeah. You
saw the back of Zeke, kind of, and there's a point where it's like behind them, looking towards him, but it's not a close up of his face. It's just you see his body. You know, prior where it was like all on him, and you could see, you know, but that's like Grisha's memory of his face. You know, it's not his own remembrance of it, or not like in the moment. So
kind of like a perspective memory type thing.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was a different perspectives viewing of it was actually versus like the actual moment versus Grisha's memory of like what Zeke looked like or Zeke's reaction or face or whatever. So I thought that was a cool little, whether that was intentional or not. I thought that was pretty fitting.
So all of this episode has been leading to this moment. Zeke turns his parents in, and we finally fast forward a bit to an older Zeke an older Mr. Scaver, who's clearly nearing the end of his term. He's kind of coughing up a lung here. They're playing baseball.
Some young Reiner, some young...
Yeah, we see the crew.
Bertold, yeah.
And this is where some lore bombs get dropped. So
Big time.
The biggest lore bomb is that, well, there are a few here, but that Scaver reveals through his research that he's realized that the founding Titan seems to be able to change a lot, right? And we knew that. We knew that in the past the founding Titan has changed memories of the Eldian people, right? Like how nobody on the island knows why they were on the island. But he seems to suggest that the founding Titan can literally change the anatomy of Eldian bodies.
Genius.
And he has an example. He says basically there was a plague some 600 or so years ago. It was ripping through people, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. And
for the Eldians.
For the Eldians. Yeah. And his theory is that the founding Titan used their ability to just make it go away. Without missing much of a beat, Zeke says, could we use this power to prevent them from bearing children? And this is a big payoff to the beginning of the episode, right? You guys are pumping out kids. So Zeke immediately goes there, right? Yeah. And what the crazy part is that Xaver's immediately on board. He tells his own story about
really
how
cool. Super dark, but really cool. The way they shot this was.
Yeah, I know, it's so good.
Go
ahead.
Did you notice that that it was shot out of time? I think there's a shot of Casaver talking and he's like fucking, like overwhelmed, and there's just like a ram in the background, like a doll, and I'm like, what the fuck, like, is that just sitting there while they're like outside while they're playing? And then it transitions to I'd like to get we'll go into that more, but then like it's like clearly like the inside of a house outside. Did you notice that?
I didn't. I think I was just focusing so much on the dialogue. I haven't rewatched this one yet, so maybe I'll have to go back.
So like as we'll get into it. He regales, because the second Zeke brings up like this euthanization idea,
or the infertility idea.
The infertility idea. Casaver just jumps right into a story about his family and in his words, his childish youth. He took off his armband and went out into the world, met a woman, had a kid, and she found out, and they she killed
their daughter, killed herself.
Yeah, or killed the son, killed her.
Right, sorry, yeah, killed their son.
But as he's telling this at the point, saying how like she found out, it hasn't cut to like their bodies on the ground. So what we're seeing is like the room they killed themselves in, with all the fixtures from that room, but just outside with Zeke and Casaver in the yard. But when you first notice it, when he's like telling the story, there's just a fucking like a sheep to like his left. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it almost looks like there's a desk and like a couple books. Oh. And I was like, because like as like he's telling it, he's reliving it. It like that's like his perspective, like that's his mind. Because then he picks up the ball and there's blood on it, and then like when he picks it fully up, then like there's obviously no blood. Right. But but I just remember seeing the sheep. I was like, whoa, okay, something's up here.
Like, I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to go back and look at. I remember
really cool piece of storytelling.
In this moment, I was, that's the only problem with the sub, right? Is like sometimes you got to watch things twice because I was just so glued to the dialogue. I was like, holy shit, this is important. Yeah. That's really killer though. That's very cool. I'll rewatch that sequence. So yeah, I mean, in this moment, you and I have talked a bit about what the hell is Zeke's motivation. You know what I mean? It seems this is it. The idea of obtaining the founding Titan powers or using it somehow to maybe make Eldians infertile. We flash to a different scene in which Scaver kind of explains this idea of the founding Titan plus a Titan with royal blood equals the ability to use the founding Titan's powers. And this is sort of the big thing here, the crux of the problem for you and I think, is that Xaver says very specifically, you're the key to the lock, right? But you
Yeah.
don't get to use the powers. You need to find somebody that you trust
Yeah.
that has the founding Titan powers, right? I mean, so this is kind of a 1 in a million shot, right? You need to have royal blood. You need to find somebody with the founding Titan, and you need to be on the same page. So that was very interesting. And then maybe just to close this whole section of the episode, it flashes to the last sequence, which is Zeke inheriting the Beast Titan from Xaver.
Yeah.
He puts
It
on
was
the...
creepy. That scene was fucking creepy. Everyone like kind of slow clapping, like watching it happen. Like it was it's
very
so culty.
Culty, ritualistic, very weird. But Zeke refers to him as father as he puts on Xaver's glasses, probably because he was more of a father to him than Grisha ever was.
Absolutely.
And then Zeke finds out from Reiner and Berthold on a ship that.
So what is that? Is that when they get away with Ymir, but Aaron's been rescued, but
That is
Berthold and Reiner
exactly
get away?
what I think.
Yeah.
Back at the end of season 2, they finally make contact, or somewhere in there, they finally make contact, and that is it's at that point that Zeke is informed that he realizes that his dad got away.
Yeah.
And
he makes reference to the other father. I found that was an interesting line. When he's alone in his room, he's like, after he had like this, lore dump for him personally, and he's just saying, he's like, so the other father survived.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yeah, you fucking slimy. You're so I don't know, just something about him.
No, I feel you. Yeah, I mean, not stable.
No, it just goes to show like Zeke is not like, I don't think he's all there. Like
which makes some unfortunate sense, right?
Yeah, like he's kind of like a madman with a gun a little bit. And Aaron's the same. Aaron's had that dynamic since like season 1.
Yeah.
He's just been running loose. But it just goes to show like it runs in the family, and like just how hot, like how hot Grisha ran, and how hot Zeke and Aaron are. Like they're so like not quick to temper, but just like they're so
passionate.
explosive. They're very passionate.
Yeah, it makes them all very good candidates for the Attack Titan and all the Titans, and especially the Attack Titan. Last piece of this episode, there's 2 really remaining, and it's Aaron and Zeke meet, right? We don't get a ton here. We get like a quick meeting, where, you know what I mean? That they're kind of like behind this building. They're leaning up against a wall, and very quickly, Zeke basically says, "Are you for the euthanization plan?" Because now that's how they refer to it, right? So I think the loose idea is they do a good bro fist, and they turn into Titans, and they use the founding Titan, and they presumably basically take away the ability to breed.
Yeah.
Or they make everybody infertile, right? Aaron originally sort of says no. He basically says, that he, with the benefit of hindsight, he has seen their father's memories, and he saw Grisha killed the royal family back in the walls, and that in doing that he basically saved everybody within the walls, right? He saved humanity on that side of the island by stealing the Attack Titan, or the founding Titan, excuse me. But he says Grisha was wrong, and I was wrong. And then he has a very specific line, which it feels like they really agree on, and the line is, "There's no greater salvation than never being born in this world." Right? So the idea, the whole idea of this world being cruel is a piece of dialogue that has been floating around this entire series, basically every season. How life's not fair, they have no control over where they've been born. You know what I mean? Berthold has said it, like a ton of different characters have said that. And so it feels like the ultimate response between Zeke and Aaron and what has unified them is let's just call it a mulligan. And let's just end our suffering by allowing us to die out. What do you think about that? Does that satisfy you as a reason to unite them?
Okay, so last episode you and I had talked. I had made mention of, it was hard. I didn't want to get into specifics of theories and all that. At the end of, or at, in that scene with like, the beatdown of Armin and the mental beatdown of Mikasa, I thought Eren was the villain. There's too many things brought up in this episode that have alluded to maybe Eren is about to pull a fast one on Zeke, right. And he is using Zeke's clear,
blinded kind of loyalty to the cause.
Yeah, to the cause, and also like blind loyalty to his brother.
Yeah.
And wanting the brother on the team.
Right.
So I don't know. I will say it's so fucked up. And it's easy to make a decision because it's, this isn't real, but like I kind of get where Eren is coming from, because I think they're both coming at it from two different angles. Zeke wants it for Marley, and I still think he's pro Marley. To a certain degree, just based on how he's grown up. But I think Eren wants to break the cycle, whereas Zeke just kind of wants, like, he feels like he needs to do this, like he's kind of on this vision quest, or do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, because the other key thing is too, like, no Eldians from Paradis have done anything wrong.
Yep.
And that's what Eren grew up with.
Yep.
But where Zeke has grown up, it's constant, beratement and racism and, just growing up in a fascist country, more or less. Like,
yeah.
They're belittled to the point. So
they believe that they're that rotten.
Yeah. So Zeke's coming at it from a point of like, because I think he believes in the revisionist history of it all, whereas Eren, this is so in the fucking weeds, like this whole scene between these two. It's
well, yeah. I have a theory.
Yeah.
Do you want the theory?
Yeah.
The big brain theory? God,
sure.
We've had so many of these, and like, I mean, hopefully the winners pay for the losers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember like Big Brain early season 4 was that Eren was just trying to catch them all and get all the Titans.
Yeah.
It feels less likely now.
I don't think that's well, maybe it is, because that's
the
thing.
I'm not letting it go yet.
What was the point of gunning for the Warhammer Titan if they were just going to do this the whole time?
Yeah, it seems. I mean, other than, a big part of it was reuniting with Zeke, right? Getting them back, getting him on their side. That mission did accomplish that, right?
Mm.
But okay, so here's the theory, real quick. I agree. I think that he's pulling the wool over Zeke's eyes, but he needs Zeke to be the key to that lock and to unlock the Founding Titan's powers.
But he doesn't need Zeke.
What do you mean?
All he needs is Historia.
Royal blood, so maybe Historia. Yeah.
Because they teased her for like a hot second, and actually, I've got a theory.
Okay.
After yours. Yeah, okay. Sorry. You start. Finish up.
Mine is Zeke, or let's say for the sake of this argument that it's Zeke, that you just need him, and all. I think maybe the play here for Eren is not it. I think he likes the idea of changing the anatomy of Eldians, but I think maybe instead of removing their ability to be fertile, he removes, if it's possible, he makes it so that they can't become Titans anymore.
That had also crossed my mind. I can see that.
And that part is over, and therefore he like gives back like the power of Ymir. I don't even know if that's possible. It seems like maybe that's a bit of a stretch. So I recognize I'm reaching here, but I think like they've introduced the idea of a mechanic that you can change people's anatomy. I feel like that's not, that's such a radical plot mechanic. Like they have to use it now. It's like time travel almost. It's like, oh, so that's an option? Clearly we're going to use it.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So that's, I don't know. I have no idea. I feel not at all confident about that.
But the counter argument to that is he's just leaving all these people in Marley to suffer for the rest of their lives. And then also, but even then too, like, because if no one can turn to Titans, nothing's going to change in Marley. And all the world is swooping in on Paradis, right? So what is Eren's endgame goal if...
Yeah, how do you get rid of the rest of the world? Unless, like, maybe he's counting on the idea of disarming Eldians. Like, maybe we're not a threat anymore. You know what I mean? Like, maybe we've disarmed ourselves and therefore...
But that would be like self-genocide. Like, they would be like, oh, okay, so you guys have no Titans? Like, let's roll over them, you know? Like, it's...
Yeah.
It's... that's the thing. I confidently know where Zeke is coming from now. And, his plan has been revealed to us. But Aaron is just still so up in the air.
Same. What was your theory?
Well, we actually have to go over the next scene first before...
Right, okay. So the next scene is actually my favorite, maybe between... Just animation-wise, between the last two episodes that we've covered back-to-back, 14 and 15. The animation scene... This last scene is Zeke and Levi carrying, on a horseback with... he's got Zeke in tow in the rain. I thought it was, like, beautifully done front to back. The whole thing is so beautifully drawn. And basically, Zeke is saying some things that really connect with what we've just seen, right, in the past, in which Levi's kind of giving him shit. And, Zeke basically says, I was saving all these people. I was saving their children. You know what I mean? So you can tell that he's still committed to the cause of euthanasia. Yeah. And Levi's a little perplexed by that. And then there's this great slow-mo scene where Zeke says, Mr. Xaver, I hope you're watching. And he triggers the bomb, pulls the pin on the spear that's been in him, and there's an explosion. Clearly takes Levi by surprise. For once, Levi doesn't seem to be quick enough. There's an explosion. We see what looks like Zeke's fucking torso land somewhere.
That fucking horse just got lit, like, burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, horse is set ablaze. We see a brief flash of Levi being thrown from the cart. And then we roll credits. So,
this is... Okay, and this is a... Like, I'm shooting for the moon on this one. I'm not... I'm partially confident, but I'm not fully confident of the whole big picture, but there's a couple components of the theory that I am pretty confident in.
Hit me.
Zeke is dead.
That's bold.
This is like, I think this is like a last ditch attempt for Zeke trying to escape. Thinking that, Levi's dead, he'll eventually heal out, potentially.
That's my thought. That's my immediate thought, but go ahead.
He heals out and he fucks off. So my for the moon theory is Zeke is dead. Less confident that Levi is dead too, but there's a chance. Yeah. They both kind of like, their open angst against one another is kind of like just ended simultaneously.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to go out.
And that kind of leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger. For part two. This is where for part 2, and I think this is where they bring Historia and the kid back into it, and Aaron has to now. I think it's going to be everyone against Aaron.
Yo, imagine Historia's kid is the one born with the Beast Titan. Is that what you're saying?
Oh my god! No! Wow.
Imagine.
Oh my god! No, but what I'm saying is like because the Beast Titan's just going to be knocked out completely because no one knows where it's.
Yeah,
oh fuck! Yeah. Oh, now I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Imagine the kid is the one that inherits it.
That'd be fucking wild. I'd love that. They're too great. Anyway, so like I said, I think there's a chance. I think that's kind of just the end of his story. We had this it's kind of not reminiscent of Sasha, because it worked in the opposite direction. Like we had Sasha died, and then we had all this stuff that was kind of going on in her life. We found out after it. We got this big episode of Zeke and growing up and all the pain, and we see his side of the story, but we kind of know that Aaron, because that would be the thing. Maybe Aaron is going to follow through with the plan, but Zeke isn't around anymore, so now they have to find Historia.
Right. Because
they set her up, they showed her for 30 seconds, not even that, 10 seconds, and they just left it alone. I think there's going to be a hitch in the plan, and this is
big
where
setup piece, yeah.
This is going to be where the rest of the group has a chance to catch their breath and potentially put a plan together to fucking figure some shit out. Because right now everyone is literally chained up, scrambling, or they're arrested, or they're in prison, or they're dead,
ill prepared.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's like I said. That is my for the moon.
No, that's a very fair theory. You know, I don't have anything really. My thought was that Zeke's plan, whether it works or not, was Hail Mary, blow the pin, hope he regenerates, hope he takes out Levi. My guess is that he survives, and Levi is not killed this way, but is sidelined as a result of the injuries. I haven't thought much further ahead. You know, maybe I can see where you're going. Like maybe Aaron and Co find Zeke, but maybe this is too much and he can't regenerate, and maybe they have to rush to force feed him to Historia. Or something like that.
But why does Historia need to have him? That's one of the few things this season I didn't understand. Like, why were they so pushy about Historia having the Beast Titan?
Only because she's the only one that we are aware of that has royal blood left.
So why would they give her the Titan?
Because why what do they know that? Oh yes, because well, does it have anything to do with her being queen? Only because I think that they are they aware? Yeah, they are. The military is aware that Zeke's plan is contingent on having a Titan with royal blood be in proximity to the founding Titan. That's the whole guise is under the rumbling will only work that way, right? And the military is aware that Historia has royal blood and they can maybe control her better. Plus, Zeke's term was coming up to a close anyway. And I don't know if the Beast Titan necessarily has to go to Historia, but they just want a Titan with royal blood to go to have that under the control, and I think she's the only one right now.
That seems like too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, do you remember the whole back when Azumabito was reading terms? It was part of the agreement is
they got the Beast Titan.
No, it was just you need to do this. We have to do a test run of the rumbling. And then we pass it down to someone who has royal blood, but that person also has to have as many children as possible. I think the idea there was to continue that royal bloodline in order to continue to wield the power of the, quote, rumbling, which we haven't even mentioned, clearly was a guise this entire time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Zeke has absolutely no intent. Unless it's actually legit, and that's a Hail Mary that we end up seeing.
Maybe that's what Aaron is going for.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Maybe Aaron is just trying to... But that's the thing, too, there's... If there's one thing that's just really confusing me is Flock and the new Eldian Empire situation.
Do you think they have any idea about Aaron? If Aaron has convinced Zeke that he wants to euthanize the Eldian population, he must be keeping the Jaegerists in the dark about that shit.
Absolutely.
Right?
They are just blindly following zealots.
Yeah.
They're following the cause of the rumbling, and it's just their way to. I don't even think it was to amass an army. I think it was probably just to cause as much disarray and chaos, to kind of do what they needed to do.
Be the ones to wield power for a change, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Aaron is aware and is taking advantage of that. But it's crazy because you look at season 2, 1, 2, 3, Aaron. You don't look at him as a master manipulator.
No.
Right? You clearly, has some intellect and, maybe he's devised some crazy plan that is going to really take us all by surprise. Right now, it seems like you and I are both on the side of, he has a different play here. We just don't know what it is. But if not, some bleak fucking shit, man.
Yeah, it was, you and I were talking prior, at the end of, if we had watched, episode 14, I would have just thought, it's crazy how much happened in this episode that just completely changed everything we found out last episode.
Yeah.
I would have, if we had that week, I would have been convinced that Aaron was the villain, the big bad now, and this was coming to a crashing end. But now it's
I think there's still a chance, right? I don't want to put all my eggs in the basket of Aaron has a way out.
Yeah.
Because you and I have talked about, right? His attitude change does track, right?
Yeah.
It does make sense. This is not some weird 180 where they're just sort of subverting your expectations for the sake of doing it. he has been so vocal and annoying about wanting to fix everything for the first 3 seasons that a lot of this stuff makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, do we think he's willing to go out like this? That part seems like a bit of a surprise. It's dark as fuck, but also like, could you see him rationalizing it? And it's like, maybe. I hope not.
I don't know.
I hope not.
We're in the dark, man. It's crazy
We
how
are.
in the dark we are right now.
So we got the finale next week. I watched the stinger, but I didn't get much from it. I think they intentionally kept it kind of vague.
Yeah, it was just like
The preview for next week. I mean, yeah.
a scene of Yelena, and
Who we haven't seen in a minute.
No, yeah. Well, I'm sure she's gonna have some ever eloquent statements to say. Probably just gonna be teasing them, like rattling the cage.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Do you have anything else you wanted to cover for this episode?
No, I just want to say I'm fucking ready for this ride to not stop, but like I'm ready to have it this season come to a close and kind of look at it back as a package and just kind of take it back. Like this season alone is definitely worth a rewatch. Like the whole, we had mentioned earlier, the series itself for me personally I'm overdue for a rewatch, but this so much they have jam-packed so much into the season. Like, can you imagine if this was the final season? Like, regardless of like
Part one.
Just say if it was just one part and there was some stuff removed or they had done things differently, like, we got some quality content so far leading up to the finale, and I think they knocked it out of the parks.
This has been
regardless of what we see.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that the next time we're going to be talking and the next time that you guys are going to be hearing us, we're going to be talking about the finale of season 4, part 1. It's been a hell of a journey. I cannot believe that it's already been 15 episodes. It's a little bit weird, with these last 2 being back to back, but man, thank you guys for listening. This was a great episode. We can't wait to talk to you about the finale of this season. Maybe by then we'll even have a formal announcement about part 2. I think, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably just about as plugged in as we are.
Yeah.
And if not, the rumblings are that, a part 2 is 90% guaranteed, just based off of the pacing and the fact that, they've been very steady about how many chapters of the manga they adapt to every episode, and there's about a perfect amount of manga left for a part 2. So we'll see, but I'm confident that'll happen. We'll probably do, we're going to do a finale next week. We typically drop our episodes on Wednesdays, and then maybe we'll do like a whole season 4 in review type thing, or maybe some other announcements on some different shows that we'll be covering. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening. Grant, anything else? I think that's basically it, right?
I think that's it. I guess we'll see everyone else on the other side.
Yeah.
See you on the other side of the finale.
Yeah, on the other side of the sea. Okay. Thank you for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Thanks again.